First time in an Allegro, just to let you know.
I'll be gentle.
This is a good day. In today's video, the second in the Cars from Another Decade series, we find ourselves in Rick's lovely, in my opinion, Austin Allegro 1300 Super Deluxe. And I'm going to start straight away, Rick, by reminding me, what colour is this Austin Allegro?
This is sand glow.
Sand glow.
Or, to coin a phrase, baby sick yellow.
Baby sick yellow. There were, let's be honest, at the time in British Ireland, some right interesting colours.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that. Yeah.
There's a strange green colour which was called, I know Rick knows the answer.
Oh, lime flower.
Lime flower. I'll put these colours on the video.
Well, the later Allegros was Applejack, was the strange green, funky green, sort of like the wings on your 2CV. Very, very vivid green, Applejack. But lime flower is the main sort of 70s Allegro colour.
The one that's going to be remembered.
Yeah.
There's going to be some quick fire questions to start us off, Rick,
okay,
if that's okay.
No worries.
So, when did you buy Agatha?
Just before lockdown 1. The sequels are always best, aren't they? But lockdown 1. Yeah, March. I'd been looking for a while. Backstory very quickly. My granddad had one of these when I was a kid. I was looking for a project just because I got to that age where I fancied tinkering. Done Land Rovers for years. Fancied an old car. Settled on an Allegro because my granddad had one. First car I can really remember tinkering with as a kid. I've been looking for about 6 months. This one came up for sale at a price that I thought was okay. Didn't realise until later if I'd have spent a bit more money I'd have saved money, but it is what it is. So yeah, March 2020 we took a massive fast drive to Somerset to collect it 3 days before Boris said
that you can't go anywhere.
You can't go anywhere. Hired a trailer, rapidly fired down there, picked it up, got it back, quickly got furloughed and spent the next 6 months working on the car, which probably did the car and did me a favour, to be honest. I sort of made this my 9-to-5 job while I was furloughed, and let's face it, if I hadn't have been furloughed it would still be in the garage now, half completed, because yeah, loony.
Yeah, we always get one. We've already been out today because Rick has been filming our Citroen 2CV, haven't you, Rick? And we've had a good time.
Yeah.
But we've been overtaken by a few cars, which is, I won't say it's niggling, although it is a niggling, because ultimately these older cars go quicker than I think a lot of younger people would have you believe, and it's almost as if they see an older car and feel that there's an absolute need to get past
Yeah,
this.
I think the problem with it is, you'll find this yourself, I can keep up with modern traffic easily. This will sit at 70 all day long. It's noisy because it's a 4-speed. Got no problem with that. The problem you've got with it is, and people don't realise, we do because we're from the era that...
because we're old.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're in our 50s. There's no ABS, there's no traction control. you send a message down to the brakes, we're going to want you to stop within the next 5 minutes.
Yes.
So we're just cautiously driving to sort of stop something happening. But yeah, you get the idiots firing past you that then 2 minutes down the road are sat at the same set of traffic lights that we're sat at.
They're in their Euro NCAP safety cars and they feel invincible, I guess, is what the problem
and
is.
I think having an older car makes you drive more carefully because you know you're not invincible.
I think for me personally, when we're in the Citroen 2CV, which we love equally, just like you love Agatha the Allegro, of course, is you do feel more vulnerable.
Oh, definitely.
I wouldn't say I feel particularly unsafe, but you are aware that you are in something that's not going to offer up much protection.
I'm aware that if something hits me head on, my legs are going to hurt.
It's going to hurt.
Yes.
And that's if you're lucky.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like you pointed out, this glass in the screen is the stuff that cuts you if it bursts.
Rather than just cracks.
Yeah.
So since you've had it, you've obviously done a lot of work in the garage, which came at a perfect time, really.
Yeah.
What else have you had done to it since?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm fairly practical with the stuff I do. Luckily, from years of Land Rover ownership, tinkering became something that you had to do. I've done all the jobs mechanically wise that needed doing. It's preventative maintenance with these. I've had help from people. Good friend of mine who you've seen on a few of my videos, Lee, has helped me no end with certain jobs. The suspension is the big thing that on these that again cost me money. I bought this, I think it cost me £700, but the suspension was flat and it cost me nearly £700 to have the suspension redone.
Because it sits on a hydrogas system.
Yeah, it's a gas system. They're non-serviceable. Filling them with fluid doesn't make them work anymore if the gas is gone. They had a 15-year lifespan. The car is 43 years old now. It was just rock solid. I think Paul did take some footage of the suspension mount.
Yes, I'll splice some footage in now, folks, for that one.
It was as flat and as hard as anything. That cost me, a specialist company came out and did that, and it cost me £700. Other than little bits of, you know, like I say, full service stuff, new tyres, all the safety stuff. The biggest spend that I've had has been bodywork. I'm doing, you know, a sympathetic restoration on the car. I'm having the paint matched as good as I can where it needs painting, and keeping as much of the original as I can, even if it's got spider cracks in it or little bits of rust. The roof, for example, it could do with respraying, but then you've got to do the whole car, and I prefer the car to tell a story.
Yes.
So I'm sympathetic with it, although it's a bit too shiny, really.
So it's not going to be a garage queen?
No, I mean, it's garage because I've got the garage, but
you're using the car?
I'm using the car, yeah. I mean, we've been out.
You're not afraid to use it in the wet?
Well, we've been out today and it's been raining, and you know, I won't go out specifically in a thunderstorm in it, but like I say, if it had been blowing a hoolie today, as they say, we'd have still been out because we'd arranged this. And you know, 40 years ago they drove every day in the rain. There's no reason why. It's more reliable now than it probably was 40 years ago, if I'm honest, with the updated stuff. I'm still running points and condenser, but they're quality, you know, stuff from mini spares. Luckily with the Allegro engine, it's an A series in this one.
And the A series is pretty much a ubiquitous engine that's fitted to so much British Leyland products.
So much, but obviously this one being a 1275, the parts, it's just easier to order them as mini parts, and I've bought a real quality coil, quality leads, quality condenser, quality points, distributor cap, the whole lot. I did toy with electronic ignition, but if that fails at the side of the road, you're stuffed. Usually, even if your points gap closes up, you know, you can clean it off with a bit of tissue paper, a bit of emery cloth, whatever, and you'll get it going. So I'm sticking to points and condenser, and yeah, it's pretty reliable. Can't complain. Had a few niggles. If anybody does watch my channel, you'll see it fought a battle with me to stay a scrapper when I first got it, but I think it appreciates now that we're looking after her.
Yeah, and I think that is the problem for many of us that love classic cars. I think initially these cars seem to protest that actually we're trying to save them.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if they are alive, because I think they suddenly reach a point where they're like, oh, okay, no, this person is going to look after me. and all of a sudden they seem to come around and...
I like to think so. I like to think she's got a bit of a personality. I know if you don't like your cars and you don't like your old cars,
then this will make no sense.
It'll make no sense, but then you won't be watching mine and Paul's channel if you don't like quirky cars. Yeah, it's got a personality. It's alive. This has no computers. It's full driver input. If it doesn't go, there are three things, you know. It's got no battery, it's got no spark, and it's got no fuel.
Yeah.
That's your lot.
Yeah.
So,
no plugging in a laptop.
No, well,
no OBD ports.
No, we used to connect a typewriter to this. It's about all we can do. This suspension system, when it's working correctly, is sublime.
And was used until probably just after the year 2000, because obviously the metros continued to use hydrogas.
As did the MGTF.
The Rover Metro, yes, and the MGTF. So I think the system is well proven.
Oh God, definitely. It's so comfortable. You telling me this isn't a comfortable drive?
It's extremely comfortable.
You know what I mean?
It's a little bit bouncy, just like R2CV.
Yeah.
But it's not too bouncy.
No,
it's not ruining the ride at all.
No.
And if you think of the state of the roads, particularly in the UK,
yeah,
I would argue this is a very good car for those kind of roads.
Yeah, I mean, I still avoid the potholes, and don't get me wrong, if we go looking for holes, you'll get scuttle shake and noises. But on the whole, for a set of cheapish tyres, you know, they're not Chinese ditch finders, but they're not Michelin's, the suspension is coping lovely with the quality of British roads, and I use the word quality very loosely. Here we go, another overtake.
Are they going?
Well,
that's got to be the slowest.
It's a Kia C apostrophe D.
And it's eco-dynamics. I think he was being very eco-dynamic with the way he was overtaking there.
Well, you know, I'm going 50 mile an hour in a 60 zone. He's quite happy to overtake me.
Yep.
I'm happy enough.
So, this will not be planned, as you can tell, and it's better that way, in my opinion. But I'm going to put myself on test now. Now, who better to test whether what I'm about to say is correct than the person who actually owns the car? So I'm going to do a bit of Allegro trivia here.
Oh, go on then. And bear in mind, I am no expert myself.
Okay, so we'll start off with, I believe the internal build code for the Allegro was AD067. Does that sound correct?
That does sound correct,
That sounds correct. So if anyone doesn't know, most manufacturers, when they're building a car, will have an internal code that car is known by. And the Allegro was known by AD067. And it was launched in 1973.
Correct. There are some photos online of K-registered Allegros.
Oh, okay.
But L-Reg was the official
star of the Allegro.
Yeah, some very rare footage of ones with actually mirrors on the wings.
Oh, I will look for a photo.
Yeah, try and find one, like I say, of a K-Reg, but yeah, genuinely the press cars were FOX, blah 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 L. So L are the earliest ones that you really see.
So I guess one of the things that the Allegro became famous for, wrongly in my opinion, but happens to be fitted to this later car, is the Quartic steering wheel, which I'll put a little inset of Rick's Quartic. Is it called Quartic?
Quartic, yeah.
Quartic steering wheel now, which effectively is kind of like a rounded off square steering wheel, which of course is going to sound mad, and if you've not actually physically seen one or even driven one,
look at a modern Audi.
This is very true. we live in a world now, of course, where a lot of steering wheels have like a flat bottom, don't they?
Yeah.
But ultimately this is a Quartic steering wheel, and many people who quote Allegros will mention this steering wheel, but actually it didn't even last a year, if I believe.
18 months.
18 months. So it lasted 18 months. The Allegro itself ran for 9 years, but for some reason it's remembered for its square steering wheel that actually only lasted,
that is
as Rick said,
correct,
for 18 months.
And one of the reasons this car shouldn't have a Quartic wheel on it. It should have a round one. I've still got it in the garage. I'm doing a test for myself for this year, really. I got offered this wheel. Whenever I go to a car show, the 99.9% of people go, these have got a square steering wheel, and they're so disappointed when they don't
see it's round.
Yeah, so I actually got offered one, and I fitted it for this year purely to see if I like driving it. And I can tell you it's easier to see the dials for a man of 6'4", but also just to please the public, just so they can go, oh,
Oh, it's the one with the spare steering wheel.
But like I say, 18 months by certainly N-Reg, you'll be lucky to find one with a square steering wheel. And this is being an S-Reg, nowhere near have one.
So my understanding with this Quartic steering wheel is, as Rick has rightly said, it was actually 18 months that it lasted for. It wasn't particularly well received at the time, but it was a deliberate design item, which was to help see the clocks
that's right, yeah.
on the dashboard. And I believe it was also to actually aid getting in and out of the car, because the space in the front is a little bit...
Certainly with the earlier Allegros, they redesigned for the Series 2 to make the inner space slightly bigger by adjusting the rear seats and stuff like this. But certainly access for me, I mean, you can see I'm really tall. Getting in with the Quartic wheel is a lot easier than with the round wheel. It is crazy, but it's true. This is my first drive today with the Quartic wheel. I fitted it months ago, but the car's been in the garage over winter, and it's actually quite pleasant to drive, and I quite enjoyed it. I think the Allegro owners, certainly the ones I've met and the Facebook groups that I'm on, they're just happy that that it's on the road. You know, it's your car, do with it what you like. It's another one saved is what I got. You know, this was in a poor state when I got it, and they were just quite happy that I'd saved it. And when I said I was going to put a Quartic on a Series 2, the feedback was quite positive. I don't think I had any negative feedback at all. A lot of people saying, don't blame you.
The way I see it, and I think if I can speak for Rick, I'm sure Rick feels the same, and he's touched on it already in this video, is we are saving these cars. The more people like us that keep these kind of cars on the road, the more younger generations will see what we used to drive in our day. And what I find really fascinating, and I think it's fantastic, is you get people like Ed Westby of Twin Cam fame, who deliberately go out and buy these cars that wouldn't have existed when they were born, but actually they're buying them, they're loving them, they're cherishing them, and I just think it's good that it keeps the history on the road.
I also think, and I'm not being stereotypical, the majority of people that complain about something that isn't standard, A, either haven't got one, or B, have got a trailer queen that never comes out of the garage.
Yes.
You know, this is my car, it's not original, but I use it. Anything that I've done to it, other than change the paintwork where it's non-original now, can be put back to normal.
But I think you've said on your videos before, Rick, that you've tried to deliberately, or the people that have painted it have added extra thinners to try and to try and make the paint look a little bit more aged. Maybe
it's basically it's going to fade a bit quicker and be less glossy than it should be.
More natural,
sooner,
I guess.
Because obviously a couple of doors have been painted, the bonnet's been painted, but the roof hasn't, etc., etc.
So continuing my test of my knowledge, or lack of, for the Austin Allegro, I believe the Austin Allegro 2, because it was called the Allegro 2, wasn't it? If I remember rightly, and this is an Allegro 2, was launched in '75.
Yep.
So that's only 2 years after the first one.
Yeah, P-Reg was a changeover year, yeah.
So on the Austin Allegro 2, there weren't many changes, but I know it had a different front grille.
Yep.
And as Rick alluded to earlier in this video, they also made some interior changes which gave a little bit more legroom, particularly at the back.
Correct, yeah.
Then we move on to the Austin Allegro 3, which was 1979.
Yeah, V-Reg, you can get a V-Reg on a 3 and a 2, yeah.
And I think it was the same time that's where we gained the 4 headlights on the front.
Yeah, they still did the square headlight, but they also did the 2. It depended on which model you'd got.
Okay.
The base models continued to have the square headlights for a long time.
Okay.
But yeah, they tried to sort of D70s the car. All the chrome disappeared and went to black. The bumpers got fatter, obviously. We had to get rear fog lights and, you know, stuff like that. Tried to make it look a little less dumpy and a little less blingy. I don't know, I'm not a fan of the 3, if I'm honest. Although that said, if you were going to have a special edition and you can find an Allegro SS,
which is a bit of a questionable name, in some respects.
Super Sport, they are really, for an Allegro, pretty good. 1750 twin carb. they can shift, and they're worth a considerably large sum of money if you can find one these days.
So if I'm correct in saying, certainly at launch, the engines that were available, and I may be wrong on one bit of this, but if I am, I'm happy to be wrong, and I'll put a correction at the bottom of this video. They were launched with an 1100 and a 1300 A series engine,
yep,
and a 1500 and 1750, which I think might have been an E series, but it was certainly from a Maxi.
I think the 1500 certainly. I think the 1750 came a bit later, but certainly the 1500 was initial.
I'll put an image in the video now of what the Allegro should have looked like when it was designed by a gentleman called Mann. Now, unfortunately, there were many reasons why the Allegro never ended up looking quite as arty as it did on the early drawings and models. But one of the reasons in particular was because of the engines that Austin wanted to squeeze under the bonnet, is my understanding.
Not only the engines, believe it or not, Austin said, you're using this heater box, and this heater box is what's going in the car.
Because they're in the parts bin.
Exactly that.
And they're not going to be paying out to design anymore.
And one of the amazing things, they changed the whole design of what did look quite a nice car because of a heater box. Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what BL did.
Another thing which is, in my opinion, part myth, but obviously like many, there's a little bit of truth behind it, is the story that if you jack the car up, the rear window will pop out. Now, Ricky's going to laugh, and rightly Ricky's going to laugh, because he will have heard this many times, and it is a common Austin Allegro myth. Now, I'm going to say it's a myth because I did a little bit of research on this. Although it was possible, and it did happen because of some dodgy way that someone was lifting the car up on a trolley jack, yeah, the reality is, in general, there isn't a particular problem with the Austin Allegro. Although I am aware that Austin did have a bit of an early warning that there was a slight issue, because apparently, and Rick will probably know this already, on the shoot for an advertisement for Allegro, which was in a quarry or something like that, right, which I'll put a little footage of in the video now, one of those cars, when they returned from the shoot, and you'll probably see why when you see the clip of the video, returned, quote, bent. So because it was bent, it kind of suggested that there was a slight problem, yeah, I mean, with the car.
I guess the flex, you could jack anything up anywhere at the wrong angle and they're going to flex and move to a degree, aren't they?
Yeah, and many people have a habit of jacking cars up not on the jacking points.
Exactly. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't go for the other myth of they were banned from the Mersey Tunnel, which you need to Google as well. Or the true myth that actually isn't a myth, that the rear wheels did used to fall off, which is actually true. When they first changed from the old Austin 1100 and 1300, they changed from one bearing to a different style of bearing, and when they were going in for service, they were being adjusted wrong. Yeah. And the bearings were collapsing.
It's something to do with how they were meant to be tightened.
Yeah, they were tightened, but basically they're a finger tight job and back it off a bit.
Whereas I guess they were being over tightened.
Being over tightened, yeah, expanding in heat, and you know.
But again, that legacy stays with the Austin Allegro. So the classic question that I have to end with, of course, is what are your plans for Agatha? Will you be intending on keeping her?
Short-term answer is it's very difficult. I've had over 50 cars since I passed my test in 1987. Average is what, 3 a year? The longest car I've ever kept is the Land Rover that I was recently offered to buy back, that I'm going to decline on.
There is a video about that on Rick's channel.
There is. I can't see, this is really weird saying this because Heather will laugh, that's my partner Heather. She'll laugh and say, don't believe you. I can't see my life without this car, it's crazy. In the first few videos that I did, I said I'd got to bond with this car to see whether I kept it. And it's crazy. I talk to the car, I go in the garage, I say, hello Agatha, sorry, I apologise to the car, I've not driven it, it's really strange.
I have done the same.
So yeah, I can't see my life without the car, so it's the $1 million question. If my granddad's Vermilion Orange Allegro turns up, AKV 442S, and I can't afford to buy it without selling this, that's probably the only way. But the last time I saw that was just after his funeral in 1992, looking very sorry for itself in a car park in Yorkshire. I don't think it's been bang erased or it's been bean canned.
It's no longer existing.
No, not good enough answer.
That is a very good answer. And Heather, if you're watching, he's keeping the car.
Maybe.
So many of you will know that the A series engine was used in many Austin Rover products, particularly ones I used to own. Metros. Listen to this. I have missed that sound. I owned, now I'm not going to compete with your 50 plus cars, but I think you said you passed your test in 87.
Yeah.
I passed my test in 86, and I've had about 35 cars. But maybe because I'm from Birmingham, as you probably know, I've had at least 4 Metros with an A plus engine, and I miss that sound.
Yeah.
Even though in effect, that is only because it is a gearbox in sump design, and that very same gearbox in sump design means they tend to lose a little drop of oil. A little drop. Well, it will be kind. And to be quite honest, in the old days, I don't think I ever actually really needed to do a proper oil change by taking the oil filter off and draining the oil, because I actually think my Metros was doing that for me.
It's modern technology. In the past, it's called a perpetual oil change.
It's automatic. That's a classic sound. For me, that has definitely been a blast in the past, and I genuinely believe that for most of us that go looking for a classic car, and if we're lucky enough buy a classic car, we probably do it for that very reason. We are basically reliving something from our past. At the end of the day, I am now 53. The Allegro was obviously around when I was a child, and I used to look at them with a sort of fascinating look, I guess. Now I get to enjoy driving or riding in an Austin Allegro, which I actually never got a chance to do when they were about everywhere. Now, I have checked how many Austin Allegros are currently on the road. Now, not including those that are registered off-road, I believe there's only just over 200 Austin Allegros left. So what Rick has done with his Austin Allegro, of course, is saved another one from the scrapyard, and I take my hat off to him. I'll do the outro. So I'm going to need you in the shot, of course, aren't I?
Where do you want me?
Anywhere. Try not to be sprawled across the bonnet like a certain image of the Allegro Equipe or Equipe.
Equipe, yeah.
There was a
scantily clad blonde lady.
A scantily clad blonde lady. I'll put an image of that in the video now, actually, that was sprawled across the bonnet. Yeah. I mean, us men never found that interesting when we went to motor shows, did we? Well, that's it for this video, folks. I've absolutely enjoyed today, and I am very grateful to Rick for all this time that he has given us having a ride around in Austin Allegro Agatha. Now, Rick has got a YouTube channel of that very name, and I will put a link to his channel at the end of this video, and it will also be in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment below, subscribe if you've not done so already, and we'll see you on another video.
See ya.